All right. Good evening, everybody, or good morning, afternoon, whatever time you may be watching this. For me, it's evening right now. Check my levels, make sure I sound all right. I believe that I do. Y'all, we got a W. Welcome to the week two recap, anything for a bit sportscast. And we coming into week two, 1-1, baby. Got that first win of the season knocked out. It's only up from here, y'all. As y'all may be able to tell, this is the second show in a row that I'm out here flying solo. Tyler's still out of town with his family, unable to meet up with us this week, but we should have him back for the week three preview coming up here in just a few days. So we'll hold down the fort one more day, and hopefully he comes back to bring us that energy next week here. Hopefully Friday or Saturday when we get to drop the week three preview. So sorry we're a little bit late on the recap here. Some scheduling stuff with myself, also trying to line up and see if maybe we were going to get Tyler to help us out this week. So we pushed it back just a couple days from when we would have liked to do it. But nonetheless, we are here to talk about week two, and I am here to talk about a win. Man, it feels good to be 1-1 instead of 0-2. I don't I don't know how many times I can say that, but y'all, this is a dub party. Hopefully we get to have 9 or 10 more of these before the end of the season. But for now, week 2 against the Chargers, 20-17. Excuse me. Week 2, 20-17. Last second field goal to win that thing. Week 1, we got beat on a last second field goal. Week 2, we took the victory on a last second field goal. Got to feel good for Greg Zuerlein getting that 56-yarder to go right through the uprights. Plenty of leg on that one. That was a no-doubter as soon as he kicked it. Got to be happy for that guy. Got to be happy for the Cowboys, for the special teams. Hopefully, week 1 was the only week that we are going to have a kicking problem. Because Zuerlein definitely had plenty of leg on that final kick, and he sent us home with a W on Sunday afternoon. Another big highlight. Dak versus Herbert was fun to watch, y'all. I know maybe when we look at the box score, they didn't necessarily light that thing up, but man, if anybody watched that game, I mean, that was just a clinic from both sides. Herbert making some ridiculous throws. Big kudos to the youngster out there in LA, playing for the Chargers, coming in off his phenomenal rookie year and looks like the real deal. I mean, that dude is an absolute stud with some of those down the field throws across the body, extending plays. He's hard to bring down. That was a really, really fun game to watch. And then, of course, my guy Dak out there doing his thing, slinging that rock around. Again, didn't light it up on the stat sheet, but if you watch the game, you saw a top flight quarterback matchup on Sunday. Not really anything as far as player updates to talk about. Thank God. No major injuries, anything like that. Anybody going out of the game, going to miss any extended period of time. One player that we probably want to watch, and honestly, this is a guy that we watch all year anyway, but that's going to be Amari Cooper. He did get that rib injury on that play late in the game, where he caught that pass from Dak to get us into that field goal range. Looks like he's probably going to be all right. Haven't seen anything showing him doubtful to play on Monday night against the Eagles. So hopefully we've got him Monday. Hopefully not a major deal there, but definitely something to watch out for. And again, Coop is one that we watch week to week most of the time anyway. Just kind of has been how his career has gone. One other thing to note as far as just general overview of the game before I get into my offensive, defensive takeaways and my winners and losers from the game. This was the first game since 2018, I think is what I saw, that the Cowboys have won when scoring less than 30 points. That's crazy. So we've gone, 2 seasons and some change since we've been able to win a game scoring less than 30 points. That just tells you where our defense has been for the last couple years, and where this one could be going. And then that'll lead me right into my initial key takeaways here. Talk a little bit about the defense, a little bit about, how they performed and how they performed the last couple weeks. I think in a lot of cases it is what we thought it was going to be, right? If anybody's been following for the first few shows that we've done, the initial season overview, we talked about this defense. We talked a lot about how it's a young defense. It's an untested and unproven defense. We don't really know about a lot of these guys. We don't know what they've got. We know what they could have, right? But we don't really know what they have. I think we're still in that way in a lot of spots. But another thing that we talked about was, hey, we're going to give up yards. We're going to give up points, but can we take the ball away? Myself personally, I've been kind of floating around the 2019 Kansas City Chiefs. And look, I'm not here to get into a debate with anybody about Patrick Mahomes versus Dak Prescott or Tyreek Hill versus any of those guys or Travis Kelsey versus any of those guys. I'm not here to do that. What I am here to say, and what I've been saying pretty consistently since the start of the season, is that I think that this could follow a very similar path as that 2019 championship Chiefs team. In 2019, the Chiefs had, if not the best offense in basically every metric, one of the best offenses in the league. And they had one of the top tier quarterbacks. They had the MVP of the league that year, of course. They had Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelsey. We know the story with that. But on the defensive side of the ball, what they had was a classic, bend, don't break type defense. They gave up yards, they gave up points. They also had some really big takeaways, some big turnover games down the stretch and throughout the season. So, that's kind of what I've been talking about, kind of what I've been looking at, as a potential mold for this year's defense is that look, I think we know, we're going to give up yards, we're going to give up points. It's going to be hard for us to get off the field on third down. And I'm not making excuses for any of that by any means. We definitely have to get better. I'm watching that game on Sunday and just beating my head against the wall every single time we get to a third down because we get there and it's like third down. Cool. We just got to get one more stop. Then we get off the field. Then we give Dak the ball. Right. And then inevitably, we don't get off the field on third down. We have a penalty. We allow a completion. We get a run for first down, whatever it may be. It just felt like every single time we got to a third down, the Chargers had the answer for how to get back to first down. And, that was kind of frustrating to watch. The time of possession in that game was pretty heavily skewed towards the Chargers, especially after that first quarter. First quarter, Cowboys get out to a really hot start, 14 points, 2 touchdowns on the board right away, bang, bang, looking like we're going to make this thing a track meet. And then all of a sudden, the Chargers are just going on these long, extended drives. And it is worrisome, but it would be more worrisome if those drives were ending in points, which they didn't. And that's something that you have to credit the defense for as well. As much as you take away from them when it comes to how many yards they give up, their third down conversion rate, I think you got to give them major kudos for never giving up on a drive. I think that that's something that we haven't seen really over the last couple years, in particular last year under Tim Nolan. It felt like a give up party every day, right? Every down. There was never a chance that we were going to stop anybody. And I don't think that that's been the case through 2 games this season. We give up the yards, we give up the plays, we have penalties, and somewhere in there, a guy finds a way to make a play. The Trayvon Diggs interception, that doesn't happen. If y'all watch NFL football, corners don't undercut an over route from the slot receiver coming across the middle of the field and intercept that pass. Tony Romo said it on the broadcast, right? During the game when it happened. So that just doesn't happen. That interception isn't a thing. So that was awesome to see that from Trayvon Diggs. His second interception in as many games to start the season. That was a guy that we talked about being a big piece of this defense and one of those unproven talents that we were hoping for that second year leap, but we didn't really know, what that was going to look like. And through 2 games, give him a lot of credit, give Dan Quinn and that defensive staff a lot of credit. I can't remember the last time the Cowboys had a travel corner or traveled just anybody, right? I can't remember the last time that we had a player that we did that with. And I don't know that it's always been that we haven't had the talent for it, right? Byron Jones was a lockdown corner. He probably could have traveled. It just wasn't the way that we set up our defensive scheme. Dan Quinn is empowering these players to do more. He's empowering them to be better. He is looking outside of the box. He's willing to be more aggressive. He's willing to let Diggs travel with your best player and just say, let's see what happens. And look, Keenan Allen had 4 catches and 100 yards, but Keenan Allen is a great wide receiver. And the Cowboys played a lot of zone, even with Trayvon traveling. And when Herbert's out there holding the ball for 3, 4, 5 seconds, it's hard for anybody to cover a guy like Keenan Allen. They're bound to get open after that kind of play extension. So really, I felt like Trayvon still did a nice job. Crazy impressed by the interception. That just doesn't happen very frequently to see a route like that get intercepted. The other interception went to our free safety out there, Demonte KZ. KZ made me eat a little bit of crow this week, and I'm glad he did. I talked a lot in the preview about how, if Malik Hooker is healthy, that's who I want out there. That's the guy that I want out there making plays out there at free safety. And I still hold to that, for the most part. 2 games doesn't flip your mindset entirely. But I will say that, Demonte KZ, again, 2 games, he's been involved in 2 takeaways. Fumble into the end zone in week 1 by Chris Godwin. And then in week 2, the interception in the end zone, which was huge. Again, another one of those long Chargers drives, been extended by some penalties, been extended by some third down conversions, and they're pushing in the red zone. Looks like they're going to get that go-ahead touchdown. And instead of a go-ahead touchdown, it's an interception in the end zone and a touchback. So major kudos to Kazee for making that play and making me eat a little bit of crow right out the gate. I definitely appreciate for him. Always willing to eat a little bit of crow if it means that my Cowboys are getting the dub or doing something good. So shout out to those two for getting those takeaways. And shout out a little bit to the defensive line too. We didn't absolutely crush our guy out there, Justin Herbert, with the pass rush, but we got home a couple times. A sack from LVE, another sack from Parsons. We had no sacks in the first game, and that was with a healthy Randy Gregory and a healthy Tank Lawrence in the lineup. So to see us be able to get that kind of pressure, to scheme those things up. We'll talk about Parsons a little bit more at that rush end position that he played all game here in just a moment. But overall, just to see some of that pressure coming in, see a couple of those stunts. Osa Odigizua had a couple more pressures up the middle. Good to see that pressure coming in from inside, not something we've really had on this defense for a couple years. So all around, definitely a better performance for a defensive line, especially for a defensive line without your 2 best pass rushers on the team. Well, maybe your 2 best pass rushers. Like I said, we'll hit on Parsons here in just a moment. All in all, summary on the defense. Look, we got to get better. We do. We can't expect to give up 400 yards a game and only give up 17 points. I'm not saying that's a realistic scenario for us. But I also think that we've played 2 top-tier quarterbacks. And as much as I hate to say that about Tom Brady, because I just absolutely hate that guy. Sports hate. That guy. He is still really good, right? I think 9 touchdowns through 2 weeks. That guy's trying to make me put him in the MVP conversation, and I don't appreciate him for it one bit. But then you have Herbert, right? The young phenom. If you look at the track of his career through his first 16, 17 starts, the only other guy who's really tracked at that kind of trend is Patrick Mahomes. And he was an MVP his first year starting in the league, his first full 16-game season. So, I don't think that we're going to come up against a Brady and a Herbert every single week. We're not going to come up against the kind of receivers with the trio out there in Tampa and Mike Williams and Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler in the backfield. We're not going to see that, right? We got to remember, we haven't even played a division game yet. We get 6 games against these jokers out here in New York and Philly and Washington. And if anybody's scared of any of those 3 offenses, I don't know. I don't know. Because the Atlanta defense, sure, they looked pretty bad against Philly. I don't think we're going to look like that against Philly. I think Atlanta is pretty close to a lock for the 1, 2, or 3 seed from the first couple games. They look just awful. And I don't think that we do. So I think that Monday night, the Eagles are gonna have a tougher time really scoring. I hope that they find a way to do something with Jalen Hurts and maybe spy with Micah Parsons, but we will get more into that discussion on the preview here in a few days. So all in all, we've got to get better, but the way we're playing, we can win the way we're playing. We did win the way that we played. And week 1, we came 2 points away from winning the way that the defense played. We can play winning football with this defense right now. Do we want them to be better? Absolutely. But we can absolutely win with the way the defense is playing as long as the offense continues to be as effective and efficient as it has been. And by all intents and purposes, I mean, I don't see that changing at all. And that'll take me right into, discussing the offensive performance and kind of some of the stuff that we saw from week 2. I got to tell you guys, I love what the Cowboys are doing on offense through 2 weeks. Week 1, Dak throws the ball like 60 freaking times after everybody thinks his shoulder is going to fall off and his ankle needs to be replaced. And he throws for over 400 yards and 3 touchdowns and racks up the stats. Then we go to week 2 and he throws the ball 27 times. Okay. And he has like 230 yards. Okay. He doesn't have a touchdown. Okay. He throws a pick. So just looking again, just kind of at that box score, you're like, okay, well, Dak didn't really do anything, right? Just kind of taking those numbers and not really looking at the game. But when you look at the game, and even if you look at his completion percentage, sure, he didn't have a ton of yards. He didn't throw a ton of passes. He didn't have any touchdowns. He completed 85% of his passes, y'all. 23 for 27 on the day. He absolutely had his way with the Chargers defense on Sunday. But what the Cowboys did is they said, this run defense isn't as good. And we don't want Joey Bosa rushing the passer 60 times today. So what did they do? They flipped the script and they let Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott have a day. Almost 200 yards rushing as a team. I think I clocked him at like 195 when I looked at the box score. Pollard over 100 yards, Zeke in the 70-yard range, a touchdown from each one of them. We even got a CeeDee Lamb running play where he lined up in the backfield on that first drive and got like a 13-yard gain on a handoff. So I really do. I love everything about what the Cowboys are doing on offense. I love how Kellen Moore is drawing up his schemes, the motions, the formations. It just never looks the same out there. You never know who's coming out of the backfield, who's, coming into block, who's running what route. It's not the stale, Jason Garrett line it up, man beat man offense anymore. That doesn't exist in this world. This is all about gaining an advantage. It's all about moving people, creating that motion, reading the defense, empowering Dak to check in and out of plays, to kill plays, to check into that run play. And I mean, really just a phenomenal game call. And I know only a 20-point score. It's not like we absolutely blew it out the water when you look at the score. But, going back to the conversation about time of possession, I think in the second half, the Cowboys only had 3 possessions, something like that, maybe 4. We're normally in a half, you'd expect somewhere in that 5 to 6 range probably. But the Chargers were just eating so much clock on those long drives. Luckily, they weren't turning into scores. The Cowboys were doing their thing. We got into the red zone 3 times, 2 touchdowns on those 3 attempts, 1 rushing touchdown by Pollard, 1 by Zeke. So 2 out of 3 in the red zone on touchdowns, 66%. We'll take that all day. The third red zone possession was a field goal. So we were 3 for 3 in the red zone on Sunday. We didn't have any turnovers, takeaways. We didn't miss any kicks, nothing like that. We were 100% in the red zone as far as scoring opportunities are concerned on Sunday, and 2 out of 3 on touchdowns. Can't be mad at that by any means. Really thought that they did a lot of nice things there. And again, I just love their willingness to flip that game script and say, you know what, today we're going to hand it off 20 times and we're going to go for 200 yards because we don't think you can stop us. And the Chargers couldn't. They proved that. especially my guy Tony Pollard, who we'll get to here in a minute. That dude had himself a day, and I couldn't be more happy about it. But it was good to see Zeke as well. Really get in there and do some good things. Again, he was super helpful when it came to pass protection. The offensive line as a whole held up well. Terrence Steele, again, another one of those guys made me eat crow just a little bit, and I madly appreciate it because Joey Bosa didn't get anything. Now that being said, Terrence Steele did not just turn into like a lockdown right tackle that nobody can pass rush on. I don't want anybody to anticipate or expect that to be the case. When you look at a lot of the plays, really what it came down to was just the scheme. We know that the Chargers are going to play that wide nine defensive front, which means that where Joey Bosa is lining up is like on the other side of the tight end. So he's way off, from where the right tackle is when he's lining up. And if there's an inline tight end, he's even on the other side of him there. So he's way outside of there, gives him kind of that, let's run and go, a little bit of a strip to run at, unabated, and he wreaks havoc out of that. So a lot of times you just saw Terrence Steele just kind of step back, turn to the side, and just put his hands out and just push Bosa away. So he started outside, he couldn't get back inside. So a big scheme thing there, not allowing him to get that inside leverage after he starts that outside rush. You also saw again a lot of help from Zeke out of the backfield, chipping as he was going on routes. Saw some, tight ends with Jarwin and Schultz. Again, just kind of that little rub, little bit of chip to get him off his initial path and then release. So I really thought the offensive line played well. Obviously, having Zach Martin back in the middle of that line did wonders for the run game. He had a phenomenal game. Connor Williams had a really good game. Smith had a nice game. Terrence Steele did what you asked him to. Bosa didn't get any sacks, so I'm okay with it. And Tyler Biadasz wasn't so great. That guy kind of keeps getting set back into Dak's lap, and we need that to stop. So hopefully we can shore up that offensive line, get Biadasz, to where he can be a little bit better in the middle of that line. He had a decent rookie year, but right now it's just looking like he may be the weak link on the line once we've got Lyle Collins back. So kind of follow that, see how that goes. But all in all, I thought the offensive line played really well. The run holes were big. The pocket was pretty clean for Dak. Only 2 sacks on the day, and one of those was kind of on him because he should have thrown it away and took a bad sack. So, all in all, offense played a really nice game. You got to love what they did. They capitalized on their opportunities. Sure, you would have liked a few more points on the board, but for the most part, they did their piece with their possessions and ultimately did enough on that final drive to come out with a win. Now, speaking of that final drive, Mike McCarthy and Kellen Moore, if you're listening, I've had nothing but good things to say about you. Really. I know it's very popular to kill Mike McCarthy, um, you know, because he's funny. And he said he went into analytics, and then, when he got hired, said that maybe he didn't look at all the game film the way that he told the Jones family he did before they hired him. All of that being said, I actually don't mind Mike McCarthy as the head coach. I think he's doing what you want a head coach to do. He's letting Kellen Moore run his offense. He's letting Dan Quinn run his defense, and he's just running the team. And I'm okay with that. But that clock management has got to get better at the end of that game. I know every Cowboys fan, we're sitting here having a heart attack watching this. Felt like Jason Garrett offense all over again at the end of a game. Now, I will say, as far as the overall plan is concerned, I actually liked the way that they ran the clock because they went into that with about 4 minutes left. And really what they were saying is we don't want the Chargers to have an opportunity to get the ball back. We want to either win the game in regulation or we'll play him in overtime. We do not want Justin Herbert to have the ball with a chance to win the game with any meaningful amount of time on the clock. So for that piece, gold star, 5-star rating, we did that piece. Now, When it comes to the plays, I liked it for the most part, kind of starting off with the run play again, letting the clock bleed, huddling up, not really being in a big hurry, not using your timeouts. Cool. I'm good with everything. And then we get down to kind of that minute and a half mark, and we're still just kind of running the ball and not using timeouts and kind of just chilling on it, right? And we're barely like right around that half field mark. It's not like we're already inside their 20 or their 30-yard line where we can comfortably kick a field goal. And now we just got to kind of dilly dally for a little bit and see if we can make the Chargers use all their timeouts and then kick a field goal and go home. We get to that last little bit there and call a pass play that gets us into that, that 55, 56-yard range. I think it was Cedric Wilson gets out of bounds. Nice job by him there. You've got one timeout left. You've got 40 seconds, 35 seconds, whatever it was on the clock. And then we run this really weird end around, which I didn't understand that play call in that moment, because you basically were either hoping for, the runner to break a big play or hoping for him to get out of bounds, or I don't know, but neither one of those things happened. We get about a 1 yard gain. He gets tackled inbounds right around the line of scrimmage. Again, we have 30, 35 seconds on the clock. This is going to be a 56-yard field goal at this point, which we know is what we ultimately kicked. And we still have a timeout. Well, we hurry up to the line. We don't call that timeout. And I think that, and what I've heard from other people just kind of listening on the radio and to other broadcasters, looking on Twitter, things like that, it sounds like, maybe there was this thought that Mike McCarthy and Kellen Moore thought that the Chargers were going to call a timeout right there, which is not unsound logic. That's a pretty normal thing for that defense to call a timeout there to try to preserve some sort of amount of time just in case the offensive team scores, or in case they've got to kick a field goal that's a long one, like we did, and they miss it, right? But the Chargers don't call a timeout either. So now it's like this weird limbo thing, and it seems like everybody's kind of just looking around, and Dak's got the offense lined up, and he's, calling out, linebackers and checking into this and out of that and moving people around on the line and changing the play. And all of a sudden, we've got like 4 seconds left on the clock, and we have to use our last timeout. So now, instead of, using that last timeout right away, giving yourself 1 or 2 more plays across the middle of the field where you can get up there and clock it and get a little bit closer, or hurrying up to the line like we did, waiting for the Chargers to use a timeout. They don't use a timeout. Cool. Have a play called, run it. We don't do that either. So we get in this weird limbo place, and we let the clock run down to 4, call a timeout. Luckily, Legatron showed up this week. Zerline came out there and booted that 56-yarder right through the net, and we don't have to talk about how that one sequence of events cost us the game, or at the very least sent us into overtime. Now, if you heard McCarthy and Kellen Moore, they're talking about how there was a camera in the way of the game clock, so that kind of threw them off, or whatever it was, right? If you need a game clock to tell you that there's 30 seconds left on the game, we have a problem, because you got to know how much time is left in the game. At least a little bit, right? And you can't just let that thing, okay, we're waiting for this camera to move, or whatever the hell we were doing, right? We can't go through that. We've got to be able to make a decision quicker than that. It's got to be better than that. So, all in all, I thought the offense played really well. I thought the scheme was done really well. I thought the game management was solid. But that one little sequence, I did take quite a bit of an issue with. Again, running the clock down, eating the full 4 minutes, getting that field goal, saying, hey, we're either winning or going into overtime. I love that was the plan. I wouldn't want to give Herbert the ball back either. We saw what happened a week ago when we gave Brady the ball back with a minute and a half left. So I understand the game plan. I understand it from that vantage point. But right there at the end, you can't make me believe that they wanted to kick a 56-yard field goal right there. That's really something where you would have liked them to get another, 8 to 10 yards, 12 more yards, get it more in that 40 to 45 yard range. And then it's a lot more comfortable. Luckily, we get the kick, we win the game. We don't really have to worry about it, but definitely something to keep an eye on going on into the season to see if we can make sure that they clean up some of that clock management stuff. So I won't kill the coaches too hard this week, but you only get one. Again, Coach McCarthy, Coach Moore. If you guys are listening, you only get one. Next time I have to come on my airwaves and I have to talk about clock management with y'all, I'm going to be penning a letter to Jerry or something like that because that can't happen. Not in a championship Super Bowl aspiration team. That can't be a thing. So you get this one because we came away with a win and it worked out for you. When it doesn't work out, oh man, welcome to Cowboys Twitter, baby. So I'm just going to wrap everything up here with my offensive and defensive winners and losers. And then we're going to get on out of here. And like I said, hopefully here in a couple of days, we will have Mr. Watts back on the show. So we'll start with the offense, kind of the trend that we've been going with here the last few minutes. My offensive winner is Tony Pollard, baby. My guy. I've been calling for Pollard to get more touches since his rookie year. You got to love what he does with the ball. He's so dynamic. He's so quick. He's so fast. That one cut and go. He's hard to reach. He's hard to get a hold of. He's slippery. The guy has deserved more touches. He showed it last season. He showed it in week 1, and he showed out again in week 2. And I could not be more happy for my guy, Pollard. Over 100 rushing yards, right around that 110 mark. But more importantly, he averaged over 8 yards a carry. Compared to Zeke, who I think was at about a 4.8, somewhere around that 4.5 to 5 mark, which is still a solid number. You're not mad if you're getting, 4 to 5 yards a carry from your lead back. But Pollard almost doubled that, 8.5 yards a carry. That's a big number. 8.5 yards, over 110 yards on the day. Got the touchdown, and he helped a little bit in the receiving game too. I think he had 3 catches for about 30, 31 yards. So all in all, almost 150 yards of total offense. And that was on like 15 touches, which I think is just about right. Honestly, I'm not calling for it to be a true 50-50 split or even for Pollard to be the starter right now. But I do think, if I'm looking at running back touches, I'm probably somewhere in the neighborhood of, 30 to 35 touches a game, something like that. So, maybe I'm getting, 15 from Pollard and I'm getting 17 to 20, something like that from Zeke. So I don't think that it should be a big disparity, especially because I think Pollard is definitely more useful in the screen game, the short pass game, even split him out wide, let him run the little slant, whatever it may be. I think that he has more valuable touches there. So I don't have a problem with that. If that split is, a little bit more even like that, where maybe Zeke has, 3 to 7 more touches, just kind of depending on how the game plays out. But Pollard's maybe a little bit more active in the pass game. And then in that run game, he's finding those seams, hitting those holes. We're getting them out in space. Again, a really good job to Kellen Moore and the offensive staff. And big kudos to my guy, Pollard, because I really think he's forcing this notion of a true backfield split. And I could not be happier about it, let me tell you. Now, what I'm not happy about is my offensive loser. I thought Coop was going to go bonkers, y'all. He did it in week 1 against a much better defense. And in week 2, it just wasn't there. And I got to be honest, I haven't watched, the all 22 film, anything like that, and really keyed in specifically on his routes run. But I got to imagine that the Chargers were bracketing him a lot. They were doubling him a lot. They said, we're going to take this guy away because there's nobody on that field that could cover him one-on-one. Now, Asante Samuel Jr. did do a nice job on a couple plays, saw him get an interception as well as, break up a couple passes. One, there was a pretty good case to be made, I think, for a pass interference because he got there a little bit early. But nonetheless, that one catch wouldn't have made that much of a difference in Coop's stat line. That was, I think, 3 catches, 24 yards. So a pretty light day for Coop after a monster week 1. Do I think that's going to be a trend? No. My guy Coop is still wide receiver one out there, but he definitely has to be the offensive loser for week one because they just didn't get the ball going his way. But that's okay. We had CD go 8 for 80, and we had our running backs go bonkers. So, and Dak still spread it around to 5, 6 other receivers for 20 to 30 yards a pop. So we took what the defense gave to us, right? And I think that that's what we should be doing. So was Coop the loser this week? Sure. But remember, he was my winner last week. And I would imagine he'll be on the win column more than he'll be on the loss column when we get to the end of this season. On the defensive side, oh man, I know I've already kind of walked back some of my stuff when it comes to Micah Parsons and my initial thoughts on him. That dude's going to be a game wrecker, y'all. He's not even he's not even good yet, right? Like he's not even what he's going to be. He's not even close to what he's going to be. And he's already an absolute monster. Just a couple things, a couple as I was reading through, Twitter, listening on some different broadcast stuff like that. One thing, and this goes back to week one and then week two. One thing that Ed Werder had tweeted out the day after the game, he says in week one, Micah Parsons played inside linebacker and forced 4 tight window targets, tied for most by any linebacker in 5 seasons. So that's week one, basically saying that's one of the best pass coverage games that a linebacker's had in 5 years. That's crazy because that was the one thing that a lot of people, myself included, really thought he was going to have trouble with in the NFL. Now, fast forward to week two. In week two, he was a stand-up defensive end and led, again, all pass rushers in pass rush win rate, beating his block within 2.5 seconds, 39% of the time. So again, that's not all rookies. That's not all Cowboys pass rushers. That's not all pass rushers in the game. That's all pass rushers in the league. He had the best win rate of any pass rusher in the NFL. He beat his man 40% of the time, y'all. He hasn't played defensive end since high school. I mean, that's absolutely insane how talented this guy is. And, I did catch some of his all 22 film. Just kind of looking at some of his plays for this last week. And you can see where he doesn't really know everything, right? His hand placement is kind of everywhere. His steps at the beginning of the game are a little bit off. Maybe he doesn't really have a plan as far as how he's going to attack the pass rusher. But then you kind of see him get more comfortable. You see him go along in the game. And then you kind of see this one stick, head nod, fake outside, run back inside. You see the hands getting better where he's really hand fighting and not just kind of throwing them out there. The dude's a monster. I mean, he absolutely is. He had 4 quarterback hits and a sack. Again, the only pass rusher last week that had at least 4 quarterback hits and a sack. The only one in the whole league. And look, this would be different if we were talking about a team with a poor offensive line or a bad quarterback or a bad offense in general. But we're not. And yes, Bano Balaga was out there, right tackle, and that was where Parsons' wins came from the majority of the time, was from that right tackle position. So don't get me wrong, that of course played a piece in here, but you've got to look at, what the Chargers did in week one against the Washington defensive line, a defensive line that, basically everybody, right? If you think that Dallas's defensive line is better than Washington's, then you're a crazy person that doesn't watch football, or you just really, really hate Washington or really, really love Dallas. Washington is one of the best defensive lines in the game, and they couldn't touch Herbert. No pressures or little pressure, no sacks. They couldn't get to him one time. A right tackle, especially one that's, blog is okay, does not make that kind of a difference. Micah Parsons makes that kind of a difference. And that's saying a lot when you got a guy like Chase Young out there that was lining up last week and couldn't get to the quarterback. Now, we did get a little bit of that Slater on Parsons, and Slater got him. Slater got him on those one-on-ones. When he was rushing from that right end side against Slater at the left tackle, little bit of that rookie on rookie fun right there. We talked about that in the preview, something that I was definitely keeping an eye on. And it was fun that we got those matchups. But Slater did. He kind of stonewalled him on that right side of the defensive line when he was rushing over there. But, when he went to the left side, dude was having a heyday. And it was good to see. His sack against Justin Herbert when they called him in the grasp. Did I think it was a sack? Probably not. But if it wasn't a sack, it was intentional grounding. So they were going to get a loss of down. The ball was going to be way back anyway. So pad my man's stats. Why not? Give him a sack. First sack of his career. Love to see it. Final piece on him. He had a 90.8 pass rush grade, which again was the highest. This is from rookies, so not all players, but the highest of any rookie during the first 2 weeks of the season. So no rookie pass rusher has graded higher than Micah Parsons did in week 2. Again, y'all, this is a position that he hasn't played since high school. That's insane. I want this man playing everywhere. I want him at defensive end and linebacker and maybe at safety and maybe at running back. And if Dak goes down, knock on wood, maybe even at quarterback. Whatever, man. Throw him out there. See what happens. The dude's a stud. He's a gamer. He's a game breaker. Doesn't really matter where you put him. That dude is a baller. No major losers really from the defensive side of the ball. Again, I know we gave up a lot of yards. Only the 17 points though. Overall, I felt pretty good about the defensive unit. I don't think there's one player in particular that you really point out and say that they were a loser in that game. And that even goes with having LVE and Jalen out there way more because of the need at Parsons at defensive end. Jalen, for me, kind of gets an honorary mention as a winner, actually. He doesn't get the winner mention because he didn't have a great game, but he played a lot better than I thought he would. We spend a lot of time, myself, other individuals in various forms of media, spend a lot of time crushing Jalen Smith, talking about, his swipe and, man, what are you doing? And he's not that good and his leg and he can't change direction and whatever else, right? We've heard it all 100,000 times by this point. He played pretty well. There were a couple times where he had his patented, running back. Austin Eckler goes for 7 or 8 yards and then I tackle them and stand up like I did something. And that's always going to be Jalen, so there was some of that stuff that still wasn't great. But you actually did see some good stuff in pass protection. One pass breakup with Jared Cook where Herbert was pressured by Parsons, kind of forced the throw to come out a little bit early. It was a little bit behind Jared Cook, but Jalen Smith was right there with him, make sure that he helped bat that thing away, even though it was a little bit off target, made sure that they couldn't get a completion. Also had a couple nice coverage plays on Austin Eckler. So, that was good to see that our linebacking core didn't completely fall apart when we took Parsons out, that we could still get serviceable linebacker play from LVE, from Jalen, from Keanu Neal with Micah Parsons having to rush the passer. So I would say we're probably going to see a lot more of that. Looks like we should have Gregory back this week. So we'll see how they kind of want to rotate him in and out of those spots. But man, wouldn't it be fun to see Randy Gregory and Micah Parsons rushing on the left and right side? I think that's an experiment that I would like to try out. So we'll see what the Cowboys do with it. Overall, though, feels great to get a win. Much better to be sitting here talking about a dub instead of talking about an L. That's all I got today, guys. Like I said, we'll be back in a few days. Should have the full crew with Tyler joining us back here probably Saturday evening is what we're looking at. So we'll keep you guys updated. We'll let you know what's going on. As for right now, you know the drill. Like, subscribe, comment, help us get that YouTube algorithm doing it the way that we want it to so that we can get this thing out to the people. Please, y'all, let us know what you think. Let us know what your thoughts are on the game. Tell me if I'm way off base with anything, if I'm being too much of a homer or not enough of a homer. Please give me a shout. Let me know what you think. Outside of that, we're going to see y'all on the flip side. Peace.